What does it take for a movie star to outlive every label ever pinned to her? With Katharine Hepburn, the mystery was always the same. Was she too proud for Hollywood, or simply too strong to let Hollywood define her? Today, we're counting down 9 films that answer that question from different angles: funny, romantic, fierce, wounded, even regal. And as the list rises, you can feel how Hepburn kept rewriting herself without ever giving up the part that was unmistakably her.
At number 9, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner shows Hepburn using her authority in a different way, less through sparkle or combat, more through warmth, moral clarity, and emotional trust. Released at a moment of major change in American life, the film tackled interracial marriage in a way mainstream audiences could absorb, and Hepburn was central to that. As Christina Drayton, she brings calm intelligence to a family under pressure, and that calm is persuasive. She doesn't turn the role into a speech, she turns it into human recognition. That's why the performance lasts. It's also impossible to separate the movie from its place in her late career. It reunited her with Spencer Tracy for one final screen pairing, and the film carries that tenderness with it. The Academy honored her again, but more than that, audiences saw something essential in her by this point. Not just independence, but grace. In a career built on defiance, this film reveals how much compassion had always been there too.
At number 8, Summertime is one of the most delicate entries on this list, and that's exactly why it matters. Hepburn had spent years mastering wit, speed, and command, but here she allows loneliness to sit close to the surface. As Jane Hudson, wandering through Venice and opening herself to romance, she gives one of her most quietly vulnerable performances. David Lean surrounds her with lush beauty, but the heart of the film is not postcard glamour, it's longing. That's where Hepburn is so moving. She keeps Jane crisp, proud, and self-possessed, yet lets us feel the fragility under all that composure. The film broadened her image again, showing she could carry a bittersweet adult love story with extraordinary grace. And in the larger story of her career, that matters. It reminds us that Hepburn wasn't only a fighter, she was also one of the great screen poets of restraint.
At number 7, Adam's Rib takes the Hepburn-Tracy chemistry and gives it sharper edges. This time the conflict isn't just romantic banter, it's built around marriage, law, and the question of whether men and women really get judged by the same rules. That gives Hepburn one of her smartest comedy roles. Amanda Bonner is witty, poised, and fully convinced of her own argument, and Hepburn makes that conviction feel exciting rather than stiff. What also stands out is how involved she was behind the scenes. She helped ground the picture in real-life courtroom observation, and that extra attention gives the comedy a little more bite. The film arrived at a moment when both she and Tracy needed a lift, and it delivered. More than that, it preserved a version of Hepburn that mattered deeply to her legacy. Not just the grande dame of later years, but the agile, modern, funny woman who could turn a social argument into pure movie pleasure.
At number 6, Woman of the Year marks the beginning of one of classic Hollywood's great screen partnerships. This was the first Hepburn-Spencer Tracy pairing, and you can feel the voltage immediately. But what matters just as much is how much Hepburn shaped the project itself. She pushed for the people she wanted around her, from the script to the director to her co-star, which tells you again that her career never simply happened to her. She kept building it, often in plain sight. On screen, Tess Harding is exactly the kind of role Hepburn could elevate: modern, intelligent, career-driven, and funny. The Battle of the Sexes framework gave her room to be glamorous and forceful at the same time, and audiences responded. The chemistry with Tracy made history, of course, but the performance also expanded Hepburn's appeal by proving that strength could be entertaining, romantic, and deeply popular. In another actor's hands, Tess might have felt like a type. In Hepburn's, she feels like the beginning of a whole new chapter.
At number 5, On Golden Pond brings a very different kind of Hepburn to the screen. Lighter in touch, warmer in spirit, but no less commanding. As Ethel Thayer, she gives the film its emotional balance. Around her is aging, regret, family strain, and the ache of time passing. But Hepburn brings humor, steadiness, and a kind of lived-in wisdom that keeps the story from collapsing under its own sadness. That's part of what made the performance so beloved. It reminded audiences that her strength was never just about sharpness or defiance. She could also play tenderness without sentimentality. The movie became a major hit and introduced her, once again, to a new generation. And by winning yet another Oscar so late in life, she completed one more comeback in a career built on them. If earlier films showed her fighting the world, this one shows her enduring it, with wit, dignity, and a little sparkle still intact.
At number 4, The Lion in Winter gives us Hepburn not as a romantic lead or sparkling modern woman, but as pure force. As Eleanor of Aquitaine, she is witty, dangerous, wounded, amused, and absolutely in command. By the time this film arrived in 1968, Hepburn had already lived through reinventions that would have finished most careers. Here, she turns that life experience into something monumental. There's nothing tentative about the performance. She doesn't ask for sympathy. She takes the screen. What makes it so powerful is that the strength isn't one note. Beneath the sharpness, you can feel memory, injury, pride, and a lifetime of battles. Critics have called it one of her greatest turns, and it's easy to hear why. The role earned her another Oscar and confirmed that the qualities once used against her, steel, intelligence, fierceness, had become the very things that made her legendary. In this ranking, it's the moment when the private contradiction at the center of her image becomes almost majestic.
At number 3, The African Queen shows Hepburn entering a new phase without losing her nerve. By the early 1950s, she was no longer the young patrician sparkplug of the 1930s, and this film uses that maturity beautifully. Opposite Humphrey Bogart, she plays Rose Sayer with restraint at first, then with growing warmth, grit, and romantic daring as the journey unfolds. What gives the performance real weight is the setting around it. This was not a comfortable studio exercise. The production went into Africa, and the location shooting became part of the film's legend. Hepburn wanted that authenticity, and you can feel it in every sweaty, weathered frame. John Huston reportedly encouraged her to soften Rose with something closer to an Eleanor Roosevelt smile, and that adjustment matters. Instead of playing the character as merely rigid, Hepburn lets her open up little by little. The result is one of her great mature performances, still disciplined, still unmistakably Hepburn, but touched by adventure, humor, and late-blooming desire. It's also one of the clearest examples of her refusing to age quietly on screen.
At number 2, The Philadelphia Story feels less like a comeback than a declaration of independence. When Hollywood had already started writing her off, Katharine Hepburn did something that tells you almost everything about who she was. She took control of the situation herself, secured the play, shaped the project, and built a role that could turn the very criticisms aimed at her into dramatic ammunition. Tracy Lord is glamorous, sharp, proud, and yes, a little intimidating. But Hepburn cleaves her with enough intelligence and vulnerability that the character becomes human instead of remote. That balance is what makes the movie so satisfying. It wasn't just a hit, it restored her standing in a major way and proved she could be both the architect and the centerpiece of her own reinvention. This is where the old label starts to crack. The woman some had dismissed as aloof suddenly became irresistible because she understood the image better than anyone else and used it brilliantly. If you love these journeys through classic cinema, subscribe to the channel.
At number 1, we have Bringing Up Baby. By 1938, Katharine Hepburn was still carrying that reputation for being difficult, elegant, maybe even a little too refined for mass audiences. And then along came this glorious act of comic chaos. Howard Hawks pushed her to loosen up, and what makes the performance so memorable is how completely she commits, never straining for laughs, just diving headfirst into the madness. The result is one of her most fearless screen turns, all verbal speed, physical comedy, and that unforgettable image of Hepburn in full screwball mode with Cary Grant and a leopard in the mix. It didn't become a triumph right away. The film struggled at the box office when it first opened, which only deepened the confusion around her career at the time. But its later rediscovery, especially through television, changed everything. What once looked like a misfire became one of the clearest definitions of her star image. And maybe that's fitting for Hepburn. One of the great ironies of her career is that some of her most lasting victories didn't arrive on opening night.
And once you step back from the titles themselves, the pattern becomes impossible to miss.
Every time the industry tried to shrink Katharine Hepburn into a label, too proud, too difficult, too old, too unusual, she answered with another performance that turned the supposed weakness into her strength. So the answer to that question at the beginning is this: Hepburn didn't outlive Hollywood's labels by softening them, she outlived them by proving they were too small for her. Across these films, what endures is not just independence, but the rare ability to make strength feel human.
Tell me which Katharine Hepburn performance would make your personal top list. And if there's another classic star you'd like us to cover next, let me know in the comments.